Welcome to the Voices of Young People podcast, brought to you by Springtide Research Institute. In each episode, we hear directly from young people as they respond to our research and share about the issues impacting their lives. As sociologists and researchers, we see a new story unfolding for young people, one that moves beyond traditional institutional boundaries and requires careful attention to the inner and outer lives of emerging generations. At the intersection of being and becoming, it's the Voices of Young People.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Season 9 of the Voices of Young People podcast. My name is Marte Aboagye. I'm the head of community engagement at Springtide Research Institute, and we are continuing our series where we're talking to young people about the ways that they think about politics, about civic engagement, and it all corresponds with our brand new report that we're really excited to have out in the world, Cultivating Care, How and Why Young People Participate in Civic Life. It's a part of the series that hopefully you've come to know from Springtide called The State of Religion in Young People. But we really were curious to know in this big election year, what are the ways that young people are thinking about their own civic participation? We have two wonderful Springtide ambassadors with us here today. They are a part of our 2024 cohort. They're coming from different parts of the country, different ages, but they're both really passionate young people that I love talking with, and I know we're going to get into good stuff in today's conversation. So I'll have Brendan introduce himself first.
All right, thanks for that. I am Brendan. I am 22 out of Nebraska, and I am currently a senior in college studying music education. I go by he, him as well. I identify as a Lutheran Christian, LCMS to be specific, and a interest hobby of mine is just involvement with the arts, music, vocal, instrumental, theater, especially saxophone. That's my main instrument, big involvement for me there.
So cool. We're excited that, you're like a year away from being a music educator yourself. I grew up in Colorado next to Nebraska. We went to summer camp for Nebraska. So I have fond memories of your home state and where you're going to school. Colorado's a beautiful state, but there were still cool things happening in Nebraska. We had a whole lake scene in the summer camp. So
yep.
I like what's going on there. We love that you're bringing the arts. Sometimes you have to miss a Springtide Ambassadors program meeting because of theater practice or a performance, but it's cool how well-rounded you are beyond saxophone, that you also dip into other arts. And I think we have someone else who likes the arts in today's conversation, maybe from a little bit different lane, though. Lupita, will you introduce yourself?
Yeah, of course. Hello, everyone. My name is Lupita. I use she, her pronouns. I am 17 years old, living in the sunny state of California. I am currently a rising senior, so y'all know the stress. Please wish me luck on college apps, writing the college essay. It's a lot, but I'm super pumped for it. A little bit about me. I am Latina and Catholic. I would consider myself to be a progressive Catholic. And obviously, I'm Latina. I got to show my inherited tumbao through my love for dance. So if you're ever playing any banda or bachata or even folklorico, best believe you always catch me dancing.
I love that. See, that's what I mean about the arts. We're covering so many bases here with dance and music and theater. And the fact that you bring that spirit into multiple conversations and settings, you're like, if there's music, I'm there. It's one of my favorite things about you, Lupita. And California, I love as well. That's where I went to school in undergrad. So you're both in places that have special memories for me. And we know that where you're at in the country often influences what types of politics are happening, what sort of conversations surround you. So let's get into it. I'm going to throw this to Lupita first. When you hear the word politics, what are the first things that immediately come to mind for you?
Unfortunately, when it comes to the word politics, a lot of the words that I associate with it have a more negative connotation based off of past history as well as recent history. A lot of the words that come to mind are divisive, polar, and systemically flawed. I recently took my AP US history class, last year, junior year. And a lot of those words not only just came from me, but as well as a lot of my peers also shared similar views. And maybe it's because of the history that we were learning about the U.S. and U.S.'s involvement in politics, but history repeats itself. And that's just those feelings that I've come to associate with that term.
That makes sense. It really does. What about the term civic care? Is anything similar or different with that term for you?
Civic care, completely opposite side of the spectrum, a lot more positive connotation. And that's a lot coming from the fact that I haven't really heard this term used before at all. But I really like it, and I feel like it should be used more. To me, it brings the words of awareness, consideration, adaptability, collaboration, compromise, and most of all, necessary. I mean,
wonderful.
We gotta care, of course. So civic care, it has a nice ring to it, and
I like
there's a reason
for it. Yeah, all the qualities you listed that you're immediately associating with it, even when it's a new term, are really compelling. Brendan, what comes to mind for you when you hear politics?
When I hear politics, I just think that it is how we decide things as people working with each other. And it comes along the spectrum. Obviously, there's the big main stage American politics that defines a lot of our existence. But there's also, on a smaller scale, like roommate politics. Who's taking out the trash this time? Politics within circles of friends. Just how we engage with each other.
Totally. Yeah, no, I'm glad you pointed out that it can have different meanings in a lot of different settings, that it's not always just about electoral politics necessarily. Okay, civic care. What comes to mind?
Civic care was also a new term for me as well before this. And with what I was able to understand with it upon doing some research, it's just a lot of stewardship for our democracy. It's educating yourself, being involved and engaged with processes that we, as a nation with a democracy, need to function. We need to have the quality of life that we do or don't have.
Lovely. Yeah, no, I really like the ways you both are describing civic care. And that's why we're calling the report Cultivating Care, because that's really what we came away from all these conversations and surveys we did with 13 to 25-year-olds, is that politics wasn't actually capturing all the different examples that young people were bringing up in terms of the ways they want to contribute to society and better their own communities. So civic care, I'm glad it rings in this positive sense for you both. We'll definitely be still talking about politics broadly in this conversation, but we want to dial into civic engagement. And in that vein, do you consider yourself to be civically engaged?
I would consider myself to be civically engaged, but obviously to an extent. I'm very blessed to be part of a school that is very progressive and offers a lot of opportunities to have that ability to be engaged. I am currently part of the League of Young Women Voters, where we promote voter advocacy and provide the students the opportunity to either register or even pre-register to vote. So obviously, as part of the group, if you have the ability to register or pre-register to vote, please take the opportunity, because your vote really matters. Doesn't matter if it's the summertime, I'm still going to be advocating. And speaking of advocacy, I am specifically part of the advocacy team within the league. And as part of that team, I work with a group of my peers to create a newsletter where we write articles about past historical figures impacting the way that we view history today, as well as obviously current events, because how could we not talk about current events? But because of the fact that I am part of a team where I have to do research for my articles, I have to ask people questions, I have to take the opportunity to be engaged, not only with what's going on now, but being engaged with our past. I've also come to the realization that in order to be civically engaged, it's not only about taking action, but it's also taking action to be aware. It's taking action to learn. It's taking the action to watch the news, read those articles. And yeah, I know you don't always want to read. You don't always want to watch the news. No one really wants to watch the news, okay? But you kind of have to in order to realize what's going on. Obviously, a lot of the stuff that's going on right now, it's not enjoyable. I mean, people don't want to be in this situation, but in order to escape a lot of the issues that are going on within politics, within our society, you have to learn about them. You have to learn about the root of the cause. And that is the most important part about being civically engaged. And taking the time to understand that has allowed me to really be in tune with being civically engaged. And although, like I said in the beginning, it's to an extent, I'm only 17, there's obviously more that I can do. And there is more that I will do.
You're already super invested.
Yeah.
The fact that you're writing this newsletter, you're encouraging registering and pre-registering of voters, you're thinking critically about so many different issues. You deeply want to be informed. I see you as someone who's super civically engaged, but I also love that you say, and there's still more I know I will do. Brendan, how do you feel about this in terms of being civically engaged?
I consider myself engaged within my own life. I definitely don't have as much of a wonderful advocacy impact as Lupita has, but I take my steps. I pay attention to the news. I try and keep up with it through different sources. I don't try and just stay to one. And I certainly don't try to just take what I'm finding on Instagram posts exactly.
Sure.
But, and you'll, like Lupita mentioned, it's not always the best start to your morning to hear what's happening around the globe, but to an extent, I find it important to be aware of what's going on around me. And definitely reaching the end of my college career, there's a bit less of the frantic. I'm a freshman. I was a freshman last election cycle. And so everyone's like, did you register to vote? It was intimidating because it's, do I live on campus? Do I live at home? Am I supposed to go back for this? Do I do it here? There's somebody at the fountain on campus saying, do it, do it, do it. It was scary, but now I'm reaching that point where it's a bit more relaxed. I understand it a bit better. So obviously voting is something that I plan to keep participating in, contributing to the conversation of our country. But with advocacy and engagement, I kind of keep it more. I research, I listen, I read, but I don't do much to advocate.
I mean, the fact that you're already started voting right when you turned 18 and you want to keep doing it is like already mega consistent. I think a lot of people are like, oh, the young people aren't showing up to elections. And we have someone who's not yet 18 who's already making sure people are registering, someone who registered even when it was a daunting process at 18 and wants to continue participating in that way. But as you both described, that civic engagement does go beyond voting. As important as that is, that there's so many other avenues and ways of being informed and participating and making society better. So we'll get into more of that in this conversation. But is there a particular issue that you care about, a social or political issue that you're especially passionate about?
When it comes to particular issues, I can't say there's one head on this hydra that really draws my attention one way or the other. But the biggest thing that has always been of special concern to me is how we as people engage in discourse about politics. In high school, I had a wonderful, wonderful teacher who has since been a wonderful friend, who really drove this home with us when it came to in-class debates and participating on these things, but making sure that people are coming at topics in discussions, because discussing is important. It's uncomfortable, but it's important. Coming at it with level heads, making sure that arguments are effective, are meaningful. And I almost say the fun in it is just, what do these issues mean? How do they impact things? Everybody likes to jump these big headlines. This thing is happening. You should care because blank. And how often that blank is really an actual concern is kind of a fun thing to keep up with. So just being able to make sure that my friends, like if it comes up, like, oh, they're doing this over there, blah, blah. Can you show me on a map? Can you point it out?
Oh.
Do we care, or are we repeating? And just being able to have those engaging, like, this did happen. Correct. Here's what it means. This is how it has been. This is how it's gone in the past. Being able to hold history up to how we engage in politics is completely perception changing. It's just a very important skill. And especially with how communication is just so easy now. We see a lot of arguments because arguments get views online. So being able to take kind of just, let's look at this, let's analyze, and then discuss.
That's so cool. You had a teacher that you can pinpoint that set the tone for this for you, that you're like, they really made us think critically and come away with new knowledge, new skills for having these types of discussions, and that you're going into education yourself, even within music education. I still think there's ways that you can be that educator for other people who helps them think critically and think holistically as well, is what I was hearing from you. I also love that you could say the word fun alongside politics. You said the word fun multiple times. And honestly, those two words don't commingle very often for people. So
yeah,
I really like that you're associating these types of really important discourses as something being enjoyable even. And maybe if we could all come away with like, hey, this can be fun and productive and meaningful and necessary to have these types of conversations. Maybe we'd all be better if we had a little more of that spirit infused. So thank you, Brendan. Lupita, I know there's a lot of issues that you care about. Can you pick one today? Narrow it down. That's something that's rising up for you today.
First of all, I just want to give Brendan a shout out. Like, that perspective is phenomenal. And you know what? We really do need to see the fun in having these conversations because, like I said before, it's not always enjoyable. But if you take the time to analyze and reflect, it could be. And we need more people to have the same perspective as you because, like we were already saying before, I think the world would be a lot easier if we were able to have these conversations.
Yeah. But
onto the load of different issues that I am very passionate about. I mentioned a while back my passion towards the separation and forced deportation of immigrants under the pretense of racial profiling being immoral, unconstitutional, and frankly, undemocratic. And obviously, that is still a very, very important issue for me. But I feel like there's a lot of different things that have also come up within recent history that I'm also passionate about. A little just quick background, like we were talking about before we started recording. Finding the time to get this recording is a little bit difficult because I just came back from a trip and I leave tomorrow to DC to actually have a program where we're talking about Latinos in politics. And I went on a trip with my family and my brother is very, very political in a good way, of course. And I've had the opportunity to have a lot of wonderful conversations with him. And something that came up because he was also helping me prepare a lot of the information that I'm going to bring for the program that I'm going to be attending is I'm very big on mental health. And I was really upset that there's a lack of funding for not only mental health, but healthcare in general, especially for marginalized communities like Latinos. And because the fact that I'm very passionate about the fact that there is not really that many resources for us, I was very angry. I was lashing out a lot because this is an issue that we need to fix. And something that he asked me is, why are you asking why there isn't funding? Why are you asking why hasn't this been funded yet? You need to be asking what has prevented the funding? What in our society, what in our system has caused there to be a lack of funding? Because we need to be addressing the system, not the fact that it hasn't been funded yet. Because the fact that if the system is preventing issues like healthcare from not being funded, then the system itself is preventing a lot of other things. So instead of asking, we need to fund this, we need to ask, why hasn't it been funded? Because of that, I have started to become more passionate about solving what has been going on within the two-party system. Okay, let's be honest. There's a lot of flaws with the two-party system. And we keep having the mentality that if we're stronger with our beliefs on one specific party, that's going to come on top, that's going to fix the issues. But in reality, having the fact that all of our beliefs can only be divided into two parties, that's an issue on its own. That needs to be addressed. And because of that, all these different issues such as immigration, healthcare, a lot of other stuff that's going on. Those are issues that haven't been addressed because of the fact that we're so focused on being divisive. And if we address a lot of the issues that are going on within our own system, then we can have the opportunity to address all these issues that happen because of it. So, like I said before, I'm still very passionate about immigration, but I realize that I need to also be putting my passion into understanding what we can do to understand why our system is flawed and what we need to do to fix it. And obviously, thank you to my brother, David. He's the one that's been really helping me clear my mind on a lot of the issues that I'm still passionate about, but he's also helped me clear my understanding. And I didn't say it as eloquently as I wanted it to say it, but it's obviously, it goes to show that even I'm still trying to understand. I'm still trying to figure out how I'm viewing this.
I think it was beautifully put, Lupita, but I also love your humility to say like, and I'm still learning and I'm still figuring these things out. And it's cool actually to hear the in-process thoughts of something that you're really passionate and thinking a lot and engaging in dialogue about. And also that perspective shift that David helps bridge for you in terms of like, okay, why hasn't the funding happened there? And what systems have maybe purposely prevented that? So you're thinking on so many different levels, macro and micro, and I really like the way your brain works. I love that you're passionate about so many of these things. We have interviewed over 80 young people, along with all of the quantitative surveys we did. And we often heard really important quotes that we use in our report, but not every salient quote makes it into the report. And so we wanted to bring some of those into season 9 episodes of the podcast to be like, here's another young person's voice contributing to this dialogue, just as you are both so passionate about these conversations happening. So I'd love to hear your thoughts after we hear this quote from Simon, age 23. Here's what Simon said. I think one thing is definitely going back to the idea of being able to admit that you're wrong or just admitting the possibility of being wrong. Another thing I've noticed a lot in my talks, both in my family and to older generations outside of my family, there seems to be a common thread that older people have of being entitled to interrupt a younger person's train of thought or argument. And it almost always comes away feeling like they need to get that thought out there to like put a stop to everything. But nothing makes me want to walk away from the table more than saying, all right, I want to explain this to you. Are you ready to hear it? Them saying yes. Me starting and 6 words in being stopped again, just interrupted. It drives me insane. And I think it drives a lot of younger people insane because it's infantilizing. It's saying, no, the thought that you are making by yourself is already wrong. And I, as an adult, need to show you that you are wrong right now. And you can't question my authority on it. I don't see you as an equal. You are someone to interrupt and learn from me. So what are your thoughts?
When I saw the quote, I immediately agreed with it. And it kind of goes back to what I was saying before that, yeah, you do sometimes have to admit that you're wrong. You have to admit that you're a work in progress. And I feel like the younger generation is more open to admitting that we're all works in progress. But as the older generations go on, they don't necessarily apply that same mentality to themselves, which we're all works in progress. This is our first time living. So we all need to understand that we're all living one life. This is our one shot. Okay. And we have to admit that we make mistakes. And just because I'm 17 doesn't mean that I'm less knowledgeable about a certain topic compared to someone who's in their 50s, because obviously we all have different experiences. And the one comment that I have gotten multiple times is that, well, you haven't lived yet. You don't know the things in life that I do. To be quite frank, y'all don't even know what y'all have been through sometimes, because just because you've lived a longer life doesn't mean that you lived it right. Just because you have more experiences doesn't mean that you learn from those experiences. Like I said, I am young. I'm a work in progress. And I know that a lot of the perspectives that I have now might change. They might shift. I'm passionate about certain things, but just because I share those passions doesn't mean that I'm always going to say them as eloquently as I want to, because I'm 17. I realize that maturity is obviously admitting the fact that there's more that you can do. There's more that you can learn. You always learn. There's more things. The world's adapting, so you can learn from it. And unfortunately, a lot of people that are older are not willing to have that open-mindedness to understand that there's more that they can learn too. And this is not excluding everybody. This is not saying that every old person doesn't admit that they can't learn. Of course not. Right. There's people that obviously know that they can learn, and there's young people that obviously don't think that they want to learn more. And this applies to everybody. But there's a pattern, of course. And there's a time and place to talk about everything. But unfortunately, it's sometimes very difficult to navigate those times and places where those conversations are available, because of the fact that the people involved in those conversations aren't willing to be involved. They say that they are, but they're not in the mentality to do that. Just because we are aware of the fact that there's a generational divide, not only when it comes to politics, but about every issue in general. Just because we have that awareness doesn't mean that we're taking the action to fix it. But the fact that we're even having this conversation, Brendan and I are not the same age, but we're still talking about it. And of course, we're in the same generation, but we still have an age difference. And if we can have this conversation, then so many other people can too.
My biggest thing with this quote is just the example listed in there. Just hearing you say that, reading it on the screen, it's just like, that's tough. It happens. It happens a lot. And I think the worst part about it, this argument of I'm older, trust me, it makes sense once you reach ideal age X, whatever that happens to be.
Yeah.
The first thing that comes to mind is, as I mentioned, I'm an education major, and a lot of that has been, part of that process has been being in classrooms to shadow teachers, work with students, and get a feel for things. And it's not a great argument, but an argument educators can sometimes find themselves making if a student says, I don't want to do this, I don't understand this. It's just a lot of, well, I'm the authority.
Right.
Trust me, this is for your good. Now do it. Don't question me. Be quiet, hands to yourself, don't talk. And it just comes with a lot of how humans always have this idea of the settings to start something need to be perfect. If I want to start going to the gym, I have to be energetic. My clothes have to be ready, prepared. There can't be too many people there. It has to be perfect. If I want to start a business, it just has to meet these perfect standards, and then I'll start. If I want to discuss this, I have to have 5 years of experience already in some elected government position, and I have to be on top of it before I can start. That's not real. That's not life. That's not. So it's rough. And when it comes to being put in a position where somebody is talking down to you because of your age, unfortunately, sometimes you just have to take it on the chin, take that, realize, okay, there wasn't room for a conversation here. And the biggest thing of all is making sure you don't repeat that, making sure everybody can claim they want to talk. Everybody can claim they want to listen, they want to hear, because you sound like a bad person if you don't want to. But you know, obviously there are people still like this. This still happens. So, you know, just being able to make sure that you can be the change, you can be the ear, you can be the shoulder, and, you know, don't get too upset. People come around.
Yeah. I feel like both of you were so patient with this adult that I feel very annoyed with who's speaking down to Simon or to anyone else. But you're right, Brendan, that does happen in classroom settings and other places where people are just like, you're the young person, you don't know, I'm the adult, therefore I'm the expert. And that's not always accurate. And even if it was, how is that conducive to building a space of openness or trust or respect? What would you say builds a trustworthy relationship? Like when you're speaking with someone from another generation about politics, what are the like we've already had a good example of the negative way of approaching it. what are the proactive, positive things someone can do to show you that, hey, this is a dialogue we can have, or here's how I'm actually listening to you?
The first thing that comes to my mind is that when learning anything, a lot of people benefit from, bear with me, from anti-examples. They learn from hearing things that they don't agree with to reaffirm what they do believe in.
Sure.
And if that has to be a bribery, if that has to be a, hey, maybe you won't agree with whatever young 21-year-old so-and-so says, but it helps you understand what they're thinking. I think, because ultimately that is the thing. There are matters of politics that, sure, somebody is going to be well more equipped to understand and engage with, but it still impacts the person who probably doesn't know as much about what's going on. If they're impacted, if it's still their existence, a shared existence, it bears listening to, and it bears understanding, acknowledging. Ultimately, when you tell somebody to stop talking, you push them away, you shove them away, nobody gains. Nobody gains.
Starting with an open mind and just starting with the idea, you know what, fine, I don't agree. Maybe I won't even say anything in retaliation. I'm just going to sit here and see what you have to say. That's good enough for me. So you may not want to do it. You may be sitting there with your arms crossed being like, harumph, I don't want to listen. And it's fine. As long as the fact that you're sitting there, the fact that you're across from me, the fact that you may zip your lips, it's fine. You're there, you're treating me with respect, you're treating me with dignity, and I'm going to feel more comfortable to even approach you with these conversations. And although, yeah, it's a process, you may not want to do it, it's necessary. So regardless, try to listen. If you don't want to listen, keep your ears open to hear something, because you might actually hear something that you may, in some strange way, come to agree with. And if at the end of the day you don't agree, just agree to disagree.
You both have hinted at ways that you're thinking about politics, you're thinking about how to benefit society. Who has shaped you in those ways? The political ideas and values and beliefs you hold, are there certain people or are there certain activities or groups or places that shaped you in this way?
I would say, obviously, initially, a lot of our beliefs comes from our parents or whoever has been there to raise you, whether that be grandparents, aunts, uncles, cousins, family friends, doesn't matter. Whoever raised you, sometimes a lot of their perspectives is reflected in you because of the upbringing. And I would confidently say that a lot of my own very progressive perspectives come from both my parents. They both have PhDs in sociology, so they all are super into human relations and understanding how people impact each other. And because of that, I feel like having both of my parents be super involved with, they're very people persons, however you say that. Because of that, they have really influenced me in making sure that I always treat people with respect, always understanding how my political beliefs have an impact on other people's well-being. So obviously supporting causes that you believe bring justice to a larger community, not just bringing justice to your own community, but realizing that injustice for one isn't justice for all. And I'm very thankful to have parents that have taught me that. But obviously, like I was saying before, now I have my siblings, I have my brother who has really helped me kind of have a clear perspective on what my political beliefs are, how to believe in something that is clear, that's more impactful. Because obviously, like I was saying, I was very concerned about funding, we need to fund these issues. But now he helped me understand that there's a reason why those issues weren't funded in the first place, and you need to ask those questions. I wouldn't have even thought about asking that if it weren't for him. So obviously my family has really helped. I'm part of the League of Young Women Voters. Although it's a nonpartisan group, a lot of the different people in my group have different beliefs, and they have helped me shape my own beliefs because I see how they're impacted by whatever is going on. And it's not just a bunch of people that are 17. There's freshmen, there's sophomore, there's juniors, there's seniors that are all part of this group, part of this one specific group. And I get to learn from them. And of course, my own involvement in my community has made me realize what I need to believe in, what I need to stand for, what I need to do to help the people around me. But I'm really grateful to have a family, to have a community within my school, within obviously my neighborhood, where a lot of my own political beliefs now are catered to these people that are affected, especially in California. Like I was saying in the beginning, I'm Latina, I'm the daughter of a Mexican immigrant. So obviously immigration is a really big issue for me. It's because of the way that I was raised, is because of the fact that I've had these roots in my family. I see the way that they're impacted. And I want to do everything I can. I want to support every political issue that I can so that their issues are fixed because I care about them. And because of that, I also care about myself.
The main influence that I can think of, I already hinted at it earlier. One of my teachers that I used to have, gotta shout him out, Mr. Sunderman. Fantastic teacher, fantastic guy all around. There was myriad of helpful experiences in that classroom. But one thing that I always harken back to is like the biggest thing that I took out was there was a lot of in-class debates, as what happens in a history, government, U.S. government classroom.
Sure.
Debates happen. But one thing that he always did that would switch things up is a lot of you pick a side, you prepare your research, you get ready to debate it. Day of, actually, you, other side, 5 minutes to prepare. And the catch was you could not play devil's advocate. There's no, yes, I believe in this obvious thing that nobody supports that's so cartoonishly devilish nasty. Yes, debate me. Like, you had to make real arguments for something you did not necessarily agree with. You had to really dig in, and you had to eat somebody else's beliefs and make that skin deep. And that was eye-opening for me. So that was definitely my foundation in a lot of how I see discourse, was because of him, because of that fantastic school. In a lot of what has been my college experience, the organization group that I cite a lot of my development to is my fraternity, Beta Sigma Psi. We've just had fantastic national leadership that's had a lot of very beneficial workshops, a lot of good discussions with us, just a lot of opportunities to discuss things that impact us, to have open space, to reflect on these things, a lot of coming of age experiences too, which, you know, usually you say coming of age, it's like this turn of high school or I can drive coming of age, but you keep coming of age, which is one thing that they've really imparted on us, which I've found very, very beneficial. About 2 summers ago, we had a retreat in Colorado. The Denver Altitude Lab, remembered. It's out there, concluded with hiking Mount Evans. And it was a lot of obviously good discussions, bonding with these guys. But we talked about our beliefs, morals, why we believe those things. We had a lot of discussed tough hypothetical situations, just very bonfire style, talked about it. In addition to that, there were other activities during the event that they pushed you. They pushed you to rely on the people around you. One of them that I think of was we went whitewater rafting, which is a thing on its own. I can't swim. So there I was, whitewater rafting with guys that for the most part I had just met 2 days prior, but you know, you trust them, you rely on them. It's fantastic. Hiking Mount Evans was, I'm not out of shape, but I'm not in shape. So that was a pushing experience for me that I just did not want to do. But, you know, I had fantastic guys around there to support me, to keep me going. I remember about the halfway point, it felt like that should have been the end, but nope, still half that to go, except the trail ended. And just, I remember stopping about halfway through, talking with one of the guys from the group, Ray. We just kind of sat there in between me heaving for air. Just a lot of discussing, like, you know, isn't this a beautiful view? If you were back home right now, if you didn't push yourself, if you didn't try anything right now, you know, you'd probably be waking up in a few hours, rolling over, showering, doing another day. But we talked about this, and this. So those have been a lot of the influences for me. Also, they have great recommendations for books.
Yeah.
A lot of good readings from them.
I love that you both have groups, the League of Women Voters for Lupita, your fraternity, Brendan, of being like, there's other people who want to think and talk deeply and encourage each other and push each other, and look at the ways that we're impacted and the ways that we can engage society differently. So I love that you both have community spaces you're able to identify along with other trusted adults, whether they're family or educators that influence you. You've both mentioned religion or faith, Lutheran identity, Catholic identity, that have both already come up in today's conversation. In what ways does your religion or spirituality influence your politics?
I will go ahead and jump on this grenade real quick. Religion for me has been obviously a large part of my life. I grew up in private school. It's always been something near and dear to me. And I work with campus ministries at my school. So it's a lot of living out that faith. Truth be told, I still toss it up. But for a while, I was really set on going to seminary. Still possibility in the books, but a little less concrete now. So religion to me has been a large impact. I want to preface with that. Reading the Christian gospel, reading through the Bible, seeing the people, the individuals that Jesus would work with, that God would use for the betterment of his vision, of his creation, seeing a prostitute, a murderer, a drunk, and seeing what they became. They're written down that we still know who they are, what they've done to this day, being able to reflect on that and just knowing, you know what? Yeah, we're all good people, but we're not all good people because we're good. We're all actually, if you look at some angle or another, we're all bad people in one way or another. And we're still good despite of that. There is still something in us. We are still redeemed. We still have some value. You can't really say, I'm not going to listen to you because you're blah, 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 blah. Your life's a mess. So is yours in some way. So is mine. So is everyone's. So just being able to lead from this understanding of, if there is a good person you see, be afraid. We are all in some way or another flawed, and that also impacts a lot on how we see decisions needing to be made, whether it comes from a spot of fear, whether it comes from a place of, this is how it's worked for this many years. They didn't have this issue until this changed, so I think that we should stay this way. You know, everybody on some level or another has a system of beliefs that comes from something. It's not always the most flexible. It's not always the most malleable, but at some point or another, somebody had a life-changing experience, whether it be big or small, whether they know it changed them or not. And that's how they got to their viewpoint. So just a lot of being able to see people for people, and then understanding that that is a people with a belief.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I'm Catholic, so this is a very, very touchy topic. It's a very difficult question, but it is a question that I have answered quite often this year. I mean, I don't know what 2024 really had in store for me, but oh Lord, has this question come out so many times, not only just as part of Springtide, but friends, family asking me, how do you come up with these like perspectives when like Catholicism and just like a lot of Catholic beliefs in general are very tied to conservative beliefs. However, like I said in the very, very beginning, I consider myself to be a very progressive Catholic. And with that, that comes with the understanding that just because the Catholic Church says X, Y, and Z doesn't mean you have to agree with X, Y, and Z. Sometimes you like X, but Y and Z don't really align with your beliefs because of the fact that there's a lot of hypocrisies, there's a lot of contradictions within the Catholic Church. And this is also why there's a lot of generational divide, is because a lot of older generations want to follow it by the book. They love the Bible. And you know what? Yeah, the Bible has some pretty good stories, I will admit, but not everything you have to agree with. And I understand it's very difficult. And I like, a lot of people don't want to go against a congregation and say, you're wrong and here is why, and you pick and choose what you want. It's difficult. And I'm very glad to be part of a generation that is a lot more progressive because it's less difficult to pick and choose what you want to embrace within a religion, because obviously it's kind of scary, especially with how predominant Catholicism is and just religion in general. But because the fact that I have had the strength, had the courage to say, I don't agree with this. I think it's wrong. If God says that he loves everybody, then why are these people subject to discrimination? It's not right. And that's why I consider myself to be progressive, because the fact that I recognize, you know what? We need to reform. We need to have the opportunity to extend love and care to people that are considered bad because they live a quote unquote sinful life because of X, Y, and Z. That's not true. Everybody is a person. Everybody lives life the way that they want to. And you know what? I'm going to be so honest. There's people in the Catholic Church that don't live life in a very Christian or Catholic-like way. Like Brendan said, everybody has flaws. Everybody lives in ways that aren't always moral. And because the fact that that is a reality, my religion only impacts my political views to an extent. Obviously, there's morals that I have more progressive values. So the more progressive parts of Catholicism, of course I embrace. Like I said before, my parents taught me, you got to treat people like humans. You can't be rude. You can't hate a person because they live like this, or they like this, or they do this. It doesn't matter, because they're people and they deserve to be treated as a person. And because of that, yeah, obviously my religion is like telling me you got to treat people, you got to love your neighbor as you love yourself. I'm going to do it because I don't want to be hated for just doing this or doing that. But obviously the more restrictive practices of Catholicism, I'm not going to let that impact my political values, because my values in general are not restrictive. So in general, it's like yes and no. It's obviously to an extent. And for those people that are going all in, there's no separation between church and state for them. It's super, that's how they want to live. But for me, sometimes I just got to pick and choose certain things, because sometimes the whole package isn't really a great package. Sometimes you got to mix and match. Sometimes you got to customize, And that's why it's such a heavy topic. It's such a heavy question, because everything is to an extent. And sometimes I think we have to be comfortable understanding that everything in life is just to an extent. It's not always 100%. Sometimes you just got to be comfortable with being uncomfortable. And that's something I kind of just realized as of now. So,
wow.
Ta-da!
Thank you. Thank you both. Okay, so to an extent, I'm going to use that phrase right now. Do you feel more hopeful or more fearful about the direction society is going?
Definitely feel a lot more hopeful. Like I said, I mean, I'm incredibly busy. Like tomorrow, I got to wake up at like 3 a.m. tonight and drive my little happy self to the airport so I can go to DC. But because the fact that I'm going to a program where I'm going to be with a bunch of like-minded individuals that are young like me, talking about Latinos in politics, the fact that this program even exists in the first place, it is providing a space for people like me to talk to actual politicians in the White House.
Yeah.
That blows my mind. And the fact that that's even a concept, that's even a program. But for me to even partake in it,
yeah,
I actually have hope, because the program itself calls you to analyze what issues you're very passionate about. So thank you that this is like literally the day before, because this is actually helping me figure out what I need to clarify for this. So thanks for the extra prep. But because of that, the fact that I know that I got into this program having this mentality, I cannot wait to see the other people that are also part of this program that may be even out of this world. I mean, if you think that I'm in a great spot right now, I cannot wait to see the other people that I'm with. It brings me joy. It brings me hope to even think that programs like this are possible, because the fact that there are people like me that are even applying in the first place. So
yeah.
I am hopeful. And yeah, there's a lot of things to fear in life. But you know what? Sometimes fear adds a little bit of adrenaline. you know what they say, like you go on a roller coaster because, fear and adrenaline, but that's also like excitement. And yeah, it's scary, but you know what? You gotta think on the positive side. Sometimes people work better under pressure. And I know for one, I'm like that. So that let's turn that fear into excitement, into possibility.
I want to differentiate. I am hopeful for people. I am hopeful for society. I firmly believe in people. I will stand on that. The direction of our society does make me a bit fearful. I will say that. I don't say it in a bad way, but just seeing the difference in this election cycle, the last one in 2020, as opposed to the ones that came before it, there is a distinct difference. There is just an inclination in people. We enjoy entertainment. Entertainment we will often find in television. Ever since they first televised the first presidential debate in 1960, JFK, Richard Nixon, presidential debates and election cycles became entertainment. It wasn't entirely made manifest in the extent that it is now, but it became entertainment in that point in time. And I think we have reached a really dangerous crossing of entertainment in the governance of a nation. And it's fearful just how quickly it has escalated into a form of entertainment just in these last 4 years. But it's a little worrying to see the direction that things are going. But I believe in people.
I hear the distinction. I appreciate the distinction. This is my last question. And you've both given so many great gems throughout it. But if you could give one message for the world to hear about what they should know when it comes to young people and politics, what would you say?
This is just something I've been telling people about life in general. But life is so much more fun when you're wrong. It is when you can just step back and say, I was wrong. What I did was wrong. What I said was wrong. My understanding of this thing was wrong. More people, it will open you up to be able to forgive people. It will open you up to admit maybe you weren't the best person. Just be ready to, every once in a while, just take a bit out of your pride and just say you were wrong and see where it takes you. Wow. And see where that leads you.
That's something new for me. I haven't heard someone give that message in this answer so far yet. Lupita, what would yours be?
I absolutely agree with that. Something that I kind of noticed throughout this whole recording is the fact that there's a lot of change. So I feel like everybody needs to strap in, gotta lock in, gotta prepare yourself because it's gonna be a bumpy road because there's a lot of things that's happening right now. There's a lot of change. Is that change always going to be good? No. But like I said, we're all works in progress. And with change comes learning, and not to kind of copy what Brendan is saying, but kind of understanding that because the fact that this is our first time, especially with our generation, kind of observing everything that's happened in the past, this is our one shot. And obviously we want to give a good impact on Gen Alpha and all the generations that'll follow behind and after that. But it's also important to understand, because the fact that there's a lot more progression now with our generation, there's a lot of things that we are now navigating that we weren't navigating before. There's a lot of new open conversations that were hidden before. There are issues that we didn't even realize existed because we were so focused on other things. A lot of things are coming to light. And because of that, a lot of change needs to happen in order to bring more light to other things that are still hidden. And because of that, we might be focusing on the wrong things. We might be having the wrong conversations. But the fact that we're having those conversations in the first place is important. So something that I feel like everybody needs to understand is, with change comes conversation, and you have to be open to having those conversations. You need to listen. You need to care. You need to have civic care, okay? We're going to bring it all the way back to the beginning. You got to have some civic care. You got to stay engaged and understand that we're all learning. We're all works in progress. And yes, we're changing. And hopefully we change for the better.
Have those conversations. You heard it from both of these fantastic guests, Brendan and Lupita. Thank you so much. I know that people listening into this episode are going to come away with a lot in the ways that they want to engage their own communities and the young people in their own lives. So really appreciate you both.
Visit springtideresearch.org to hear more voices of young people and to learn about the latest research and resources available, along with Cultivating Care, how and why young people participate in civic life. Springtide Research Institute is dedicated to listening to young people and sharing critical research and actionable insights from what we learn. Visit our website to find ways to support our work and discover ways that we can support yours. You can find us and follow us on social media at We Are Springtide. If you're enjoying the Voices of Young People podcast, we invite you to rate it, review it, and share it with a friend. Today's show was produced by Marte Aboagye. Audio was mixed by Andy Palmer. Opening description from Fardosa Dahir, and original music by Christian Unthank. Special thanks to the 12 guests featured in Season 9 and to all the young people whose perspectives and insights make our research possible. Thanks for listening.